the street, gently down 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 the street.
Could everyone please rise? Could everyone please rise? All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the meeting of Rotary Club of Seattle #4. I'm your club president, Beth Knox. I'd like to recognize that we are convening this meeting on the traditional land of the Coast Salish peoples. Today is also the 17th of May, so happy Sittendamai to our Norwegian friends on the National Day. Now, our club enjoys music, singing, and words of inspiration to kick off our meeting. Leading our music today is Jimmy Collins and accompanied by Freeman Fong. And following the music, I invite Tom Maceros to share our inspiration for the day. Jimmy.
Thank you, President Beth. In honor of what a wonderful world we live in, and as inclusive as Rotarians try to be, we're going to sing about the whole world, and then we're going to hone in through our programs and learn about more about the Asia Pacific region. I'd ask you to join me in Nat King Cole's famous "What a Wonderful World." I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and for you. Think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, and also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry. I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Please be seated. I grew up on the East Coast in Connecticut, and my neighborhood schools were filled with Irish, Germans, Italians, African Americans, Greeks, Puerto Ricans, and Slavic people like me. I never had much of an introduction or interaction with Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders until I came to the West Coast. I recall a short encounter when I began my career with the Boy Scouts of America here in Seattle, when the Western Regional Director was visiting our offices for the day from San Jose. Rudy Zakoa was going around the office saying hello to our staff, and I was the newest guy and had not yet met Rudy. So he spent a few extra minutes with me. As I reflect on that brief meeting, I was surprised that he focused on me and who I was and never mentioned his own history or his career with the Boy Scouts. That brief encounter happened during the spring of 1975. Yes, I am old. Yes, I am old. So for today, I found 4 quotes from Asian American leaders that I'd like to share with you, and hopefully they will bring inspiration to you as they did for me. Patsy Takamoto Mink was the first woman of color and first Asian American woman to serve in Congress. She said, "We have to build things that we want to accomplish in life and in our country based on our life experiences to make sure that others do not suffer the same discriminations." Kapana Chawla was an Indian-born American astronaut. She said, "You must enjoy the journey because whether or not you get there, you must have fun along the way." And I like that fun along the way. And we all know Christy Yamaguchi, the 1992 American Olympic gold medal winner. She said, "Every day someone realizes a dream. I believe dreams help light our darkness and give us the push we need to move across the rink of life." And then finally, let's go back to Rudy, a key staff leader with the Boy Scouts of America. About a year ago, I was reading another Daniel James Brown book, Facing the Mountain, about the 442nd Regiment of Japanese Americans who fought in World War II in Italy and France. As I read the epilogue at the end of the book, I learned that Rudy, who was one of the heroes of the 442nd, was, yes, the same Rudy Tokoa who had spent a few minutes with me back in 1975. Here was an American hero focused on me, a young green rookie in life. Let me close with a quote from Rudy that I read in Daniel Brown's book as Rudy reflected on the experiences and his accomplishments, during World War II. He said, "You know, I felt for the guys who didn't make it, and I hope they are watching from heaven so that they too can enjoy and say, 'Look what we have done.'" Thank you.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you, Jimmy and Freeman, for setting the stage for our meeting that we have for you today. Thanks also to the Rotarians who have stepped up to make our meeting a great experience for you today, including meeting reporter Brad Barber, online meeting host Kathy Gibson, and our greeters Ken Colling and Fedva Dickman. We have a truly fantastic program for you today. You may have noticed that we have a few extra people in the room. In our short program on Boys in the Boat movie premiere and the progress of the Shell House renovation project led by our own club member, Nicole Klein, will be coming up shortly. We're also celebrating, as you heard from Tom, Asian American Heritage Month, and club member Assunta Ng has brought a powerhouse lineup of leaders who will speak to the power of the Asian American vote. Now, as I said, we've got a large number of guests joining us today, so I've decided to introduce each one of them and applause in between, please. All right, that's just to see if I can get my sergeant at arms to sweat a bit. So we do have a lot of guests. So I am going to read your name, and if you would please stand when I read your name and remain standing, and then we'll do one round of applause at the end. We have Judy Rance Willman, Nicole Kleiman's guest. We have Sharon and Kelvin Hansen from the Rotary Club in Brisbane, Australia. Our short program will be led by Pat McCauley. We have Judy and George Smith from LA5 Rotary, guest of Jeff Borick, and they're one of the first 5 Rotary clubs in the world. We have Franco Del Rosario, immediate past president, Rotary Club of Makati, Philippines. We have Justin Cheng, a potential member. We have Veronica Garibay, potential member. Jennifer Spangen, potential member. She is founder and CEO of Open Road Group. Michael McCasmowitz, former Seattle 4 member, now a Rotarian in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. We have Lisa Chin from University District Rotary. Cam Butler, who is our interpreter from the Hearing, Speech, and Deaf Center. We have Brigadier General Dan Dent, welcome, guest of Jimmy Collins, commander of the Washington Army National Guard. We have Patty Goldman, guest of Leesa Manion. Stephanie Prentice, guest of Steve Hobbs. We have Secretary of State Steve Hobbs. We have King County Prosecutor Leesa Manion. We have David Della with the Seattle International District Rotary, former Seattle City Council member. Katherine Cheng, Seattle Mariners VP of People and Culture. Tiara Bonds, guest of Marcia Matusi, owner of Take Charge Credit Counseling. Elijah Moyo, also guest of Marcia Matusi, program manager UW, and Hiro Tojo, Consulate of Japan office. Welcome. Can we please have a round of applause? Thank you all for being here. Now, we like to celebrate the anniversaries of our Rotarians, and for our May anniversaries, we are celebrating the 1-year anniversary of Brad Barber. And Ken, could I ask you to grab I think his blue badge maybe is right underneath there? And could I ask Ken to present the blue badge to Brad Barber? Thank you. Congratulations, Brad. He's receiving his blue badge for his 1-year anniversary. Now I'd like to call up club member Nicole Klein, who is largely responsible for half of the guests in this room today, to introduce our short program speaker. Nicole.
Hi, everybody. So some of you know me as Nicole Klein, VP of Membership, but I also have another role with the UW as the Capital Campaign Manager of the ASUW Shell House. For 6 years, we're at 16.5 million towards the 18.5. Thank you. Thank you. But today, I just wanted to share a story of context so you know why we brought all of these special guests here today. And it's a Rotary story. I don't know if you saw the TikTok that went viral, you're about to see it soon, but when I saw it and read in the paper a couple articles about this high school and SQUIM and the attention they got, and more importantly, what they were doing with that attention from the directors of the Boys in the Boat movie, I reached out using Google and met over Google President K with the SQUIM Sunrise Rotary, 7 a.m. on Fridays. And I said, how can I help? Can we meet? So I went to SQUIM very early. We had a nice breakfast where I also met Pat, and we shared because we're kind of in a swirl with this movie coming at us. And it was really nice to just hear that they were authentically doing something for the good with this leveraging of fame that will potentially be coming our way as well. So after that, we said, hey, let's get you coming to our Rotary and speak to our club, which I did in April. But let's have the Rotarians come here and let's have the students come here, get them touring both boathouses. So that's what we just got done doing today. And that happened because the next day, someone named Bill Desjardins, who is a principal at GLY Construction, he said, I'll help in any way I can. And so he talked to one of his friends that owns Transwest and said, can we donate a bus, get them here? And that's how everyone got here this morning. So all of this good just kept happening. And today, Pat's going to share the rest of the story. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm timed. I have 8 minutes. So it's pretty wonderful. Okay, so how does this thing work? It's not, there we go. All right, it's pretty wonderful how Rotarians tend to help Rotarians. And when we met Nicole, it was kismet that we would all be able to help each other. So I want to thank everybody for allowing us to come and take up some of your valuable time today and talk about the Boys in the Boat. I'm really disappointed that one person is not here. No, not really. Grant Heshoff, who is George's partner, who I've been talking to, his mother was the president of the Beverly Hills Rotary Club. So there's Rotary Connection again. And when I knew I was coming, I said, oh, Grant, please come. You would be so welcomed at this meeting. And unfortunately, I looked around and he didn't show up. I don't understand these Hollywood people, but he didn't show up. So I would like really quickly to ask all the swim Rotarians to stand up. This is the team who's going to build a youth house for, stand up, there you go, real quick. They're going to build a youth house for homeless kids and swim, okay? Thank you. And this is how this all started. We have an Interact Club that's like no other Interact Club, and I'm hoping you all will maybe establish one. We also have an Interact Club director who's awesome, and she makes it fun and comes up with great projects for them to work. We also have a really wonderful, wonderful Interact liaison with the high school who makes it fun for the kids too. So this is the Interact Club meeting with Judy the first time at the museum. I want to thank Judy Rance for allowing us to use Joe's name in honor of her dad, and also for all her support in the Joe Rance Fund. So far, I also want to thank Ray. Everybody hears about Judy, but nobody hears about Ray. You know, truly behind every great woman, there's a great husband, and Ray's that guy. So he's there supporting her all the time, and he's amazing. So our amazing Interact Club starts with great leadership. And this is the president of the club, Aiden. He's going to come up here in a minute. But while he does, I want you to see, this is the advisor from the school. And this is Colleen. Now, basically what happened, Colleen came about 5 years ago and said, we've got this girl. She's basically homeless, but she works full time. She's going to Head Start, Running Start, and she's just awesome. Did we give her a scholarship for college? No. We gave the girl who was going to Stanford an already $130,000 scholarship, another scholarship. I didn't think that was right because I thought the kid that had the tenacity to be on her own and really work hard should get the scholarship. So then the next year we found that on the day after graduation, two girls had created a pact at a high school. They were both homeless. They decided to commit suicide the day after graduation. Why? Because there was no structure for them. We also then decided that we had to do something. So we stepped in and decided to do the Joe Rance Fund. So that's the basic story on the Joe Rance Fund. We have 50 high school kids that are homeless and swim. And that means they're couch surfing, which makes them vulnerable to sexual abuse, etc. And so I wrote letters to George Clooney, and like crazy, I called everybody, nothing happened. So Hayden, come on up here. So one day these guys come to our Rotary meeting, 4 or 5 of them. Everybody in that light blue shirt, that's interactors. And they come, and so one day I was just beside myself. So he was leaving and I said, come here, I have to ask you a question. Can you help me? I said, I want to do some social media and push. This is my business too. So I know that this would work. I said, I want to push to get George Clooney's attention. And so Hayden, what did you guys do? I gave him 5 points. So.
Okay. So as she said, Rotary asked us to make this video, and we got together after school. There was 4 of us that were, or 3 of us that were able to do it at the time. And we started making this video, and we really didn't think anything was going to come of this. Like a random video made by 3 kids in an hour in a random town in who knows where, Washington. And we didn't think anything would come of this. And we made this video, and within a couple days, we had 200,000 views. And we had an email from Grant, and it said, I'm in touch with George Clooney, like we're in. And we did not believe that that it was actually happening. We sent it over to Pat. We're like, we have no idea if this is legit or not. And she, with a little bit of finagling, she talked to him, and it's true. George Clooney is in on it. And we are going to have the premiere of Boys in the Boat at the Squim High School auditorium, where George Clooney, or where Joe Rance played the banjo. And there is potential that both Grant and George Clooney will be there as well.
Along with a couple stars. So, okay, let's play this guy.
So we heard that the story of our town hero, Joe Rance, He's being made into a movie by the one and only George Clooney.
Hi, Mr. Clooney. Just like Joe, we're some of the students that go to Scrim High School.
There are 160 homeless kids in our town and 50 unaccompanied high schoolers who are couch surfing or living in their cars just trying to get by, just like Joe did.
Swim does not receive any funds for a shelter to house these homeless youth. So we had this crazy idea. We want to have a Boys in the Boat premiere at Joe's old high school to honor him and raise money for the Joe Rance Rotary Youth House. Scrim is the little town that taught Joe how to survive when he was abandoned by his parents. As a part of Interactive Rotary Club, we want to be able to shelter those kids who live just.
We need your help to garner attention and get the word out to George Clooney and his team.
Please like, share, and follow for more.
Thanks. So that's basically all it was. And of course, they did it on TikTok. They didn't believe an iCloud email was real. So Grant uses iCloud and they said, we don't think it's real because it's not from a business, but it was. So we were the first to find out they're going to do a premiere. And then Nicole found out they're going to do one at UW because we were telling everybody in the newspaper that they were doing one here and one at UW. So we hope in November that's the date we're told that there will be premiere in Scrim and somewhere in Seattle. So hopefully you'll all get a chance to see it. But what I really wanted to talk about, I'm not here to ask for money. I'm basically here to tell you all that we want contacts, okay? And strategizing, Rotarians have contacts. There's 1 million kids that are homeless in the United States in high school. And we need your help to make the Joe Rance Rotary Youth Fund work. Aiden, your turn again. Come on up in here, please, quick. My alarm just went off and I told you 8 minutes, so come on up here.
Well, I'll get on either side.
Okay. So through Nicole's contacts, we were designated the charity at the Windermere Cut. And this is Dottie and Alan from Swim Windermere presenting the check from the Windermere Foundation for how much money? $17,000. So thank you very much, Windermere. And we couldn't have done it without Nicole's contact. That goes back to saying we need contacts. Thank you all very much for your time.
Thank you, Pat, and thank you to the Sunrise Rotary Club and all the students who are here from Scrim High School. You know, you may have heard the quote from the hockey legend Wayne Gretzky, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Well, you all took your shot, you posted that TikTok and it paid off, so congratulations. So now I'd like to invite all of our guests to come onto the stage. Go ahead and sit down, and as I introduce you. So our long program today is moderated by club member Assunta Ng. She's a Seattle Rotary Club member for 32 years and a true community treasure. In spite of plenty of skepticism from other people, Assunta decided to start a Chinese language newspaper in Seattle and later an English language newspaper with Pan-Asian content. She knew the best way to respond to the doubters was just to do just what the high school students from Swim did and take her shot. That's what she did week after week, delivered these publications for 41 years. The Seattle Chinese Post was retired in January, and the Northwest Asian Weekly is now digital only, but continues on. Her legacy of creating award-winning papers and empowering immigrants and Asian Americans is one that cannot be understated. Assunta will be moderating today's conversation, and it is her influence that brings us the esteemed panel that I'm proud to introduce. We have Washington Secretary of State, Steve Hobbs, who was elected in November of 2022 and leads the office responsible for managing state and local elections, corporation and charity filings, Washington State Library and Archives, and other community programs. Previously, he was the state senator for Washington's 44th Legislative District. Secretary Hobbs is a lieutenant colonel in the Washington Army National Guard. Leesa Manion is the first woman, first person of color, and first Asian American to be elected to serve as King County Prosecuting Attorney. Leesa is also the first Korean American woman in the U.S. to be elected prosecuting attorney. She previously served as the chief of staff of the King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office for 15 years, where she implemented effective programs that improve public safety, enhance victim services, and reduce racial disproportionality. David Della is principal at EcoReady, a business and community consulting company and a lifelong resident of Seattle. He is a government, business, and community relations professional with over 20 years' experience in the public sector, including Deputy Chief of Staff to Mayor Norm Rice, serving as a member of the Seattle City Council from 2003 to 2008, and as Executive Director of the Commission on Asian Pacific American Affairs under Governors Mike Lowry and Gary Locke. He's also a former president of International District Rotary. And rounding out this amazing group is Katherine Cheng, Vice President, People and Culture and Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for the Seattle Mariners. Prior to joining the team, Katherine honed her skills in social impact, sustainability, international business, strategic communications, and reputation management at some of the world's most iconic brands, including Microsoft and Starbucks, as well as with the U.S. government, working for the Clinton, Obama, and Biden administrations. She served on the Board of Trustees for the Wing Luke Museum, Seattle Center Foundation, and the YWCA. Please welcome our panel and our moderator, Assunta Ng.
Thank you. So I'm curious, how many of you have only heard about Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month recently? Raise your hand. Wow, quite a bit. So I'm so glad you're here. So I have invited more panelists than usual, so we won't have time for Q&A. But you can see the diversity and strength of the Asian community's leadership. So let's begin with Steve, Katherine, and David. You were all American born. And Leesa, you came as a little baby. So growing up in America, have you ever clashed with your Asian immigrant parents on American cultural values? How did you or your parents resolve the differences? Be careful, we have lots of young people here. Set a good example.
So this is an incident that happened between my wife and my mom, so it's very uncomfortable. So my wife and I, when our young baby, we said, hey, Mom, can you watch the kid while Pam and I go on our date night, which we did. We came back and there was my mom feeding my kid sashimi. Now, I'm fine with that, but my wife, who came from the Midwest, freaked out. And so she's yelling at my mom. She said, what are you going to do? She's looking at me. And then my mom just calmly put the chopsticks down. She looked at us. She said, 150 million Japanese over millennia can't be wrong. And then proceeded to feed. And then I found a way to get out of there. So anyway, that's my story. There you go.
Okay. So no, I never clashed with my mom at all, ever. But I think that growing up here, there's a certain sense of we think we know everything, and I will admit that there were probably some instances of disrespect because you think you know everything and your immigrant parent knows nothing because they have a heavy accent, or so not really proud of that. But I think that in those days, that also was one of the things that my mom also gave me a lot of leeway in terms of being the strong person that she thought that we could be, because she was a good role model. So I think there were clashes, but at the same time, we were able to forge our own path. I'm the youngest of 4 girls, so a lot of drama probably.
In my family, the big culture of my parents are old school. So you don't speak unless you're spoken to. You say thank you, don't talk back. And I think there were clashes a lot because I tend to talk back
Well,
and speak
that's-
out of turn. And
yeah.
so we resolved that by me shutting up.
Yeah. Lisa,
I grew up separated from my Korean mother, so I actually grew up longing to know about my Korean culture and to have that connection. I will say, growing up in an all-white household, there was definitely like what we felt in my community growing up in Kentucky in the 70s. We used the term American and Oriental. So inside the home, people referred to me as American. That's outdated language. But out in the playground, outside of the home, I was Oriental, I was other.
so follow-up question. Now that you have kids of your own, what would you like to teach them about Asian cultural values?
You mean over and above the abiding deep love and respect we have for our elders? You mean over and above that?
You tell me.
I would want my children to really understand and appreciate our sense of community and how we come together and we help one another out.
And I have 3 words, the sense of family, community, and hard work.
Yeah, the same thing, family and honor. I know that was drilled into me by my mom. If I did anything wrong, it was like, you've dishonored the family.
That's a burden, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, she still does it.
It's a burden, but I think it's a real thing. They have to have that respect because I think that there is fewer sort of instances to have the respect for your culture when the further out that you get. My kids are Hapa, so they're half Caucasian. So it's even more important for me to instill in them the values of the Asian community, particularly the Chinese community, and how we grew up, and the respect for your elders and the and taking care of your community.
Great. When did you see yourself as Asian Americans and not just Chinese, Korean, Filipino, and Japanese?
For me, it was about, I was 11 years old. It was my very first trip to Seattle. And it's a big part of why I live here. We were visiting my favorite aunt. We were on an adventure. It was Seattle in August. It was gorgeous. And it was the first time that my brother and I met another person who knew that we were Korean, not Chinese, Japanese, Vietnamese, or, Oriental or Asian, because like I said, the language was outdated. And it was the first time that I had that sense of identity, that I could name it and feel it.
I think for me growing up, we always had interactions with other Asian cultures. So being Asian American was always the thing. But when I went to the University of Washington, my world really kind of opened up because then I was not only interacting with different Asian groups as friends, but we were actually doing activism work. So I think it really brought sort of the prejudices against different races into my world as well.
I think from the very beginning, since I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and my mom came from Japan, from a very rural part of Japan, those traditions were ingrained with me. And because of the 70s and 80s, and I was living in Snohomish County, there was a lot of racial prejudice against my family. They would spray paint racial epithets in front of my house. I'd get beat up a lot. My mom would get harassed a lot. I remember they'd stop our car, and then especially the time when there was a recession, saying, you're taking our jobs away. So yeah, it was in my face from the very beginning.
Yeah, I grew up in the 1970s when there was what they called the Asian identity movement. And it started on the college campuses when I went to college. We got involved in the Asian identity movement. And that transferred into our community organizing a lot in Chinatown International District to preserve that community from undue development. So we always work cross purposes with other Asian American groups in order to be effective.
Thank you. So the next part is the fun part, agree or disagree. So I'll ask you a question. Do you agree or disagree that many Asian parents still want their children to be doctors, lawyers, and engineers, even though Asian Americans have done so well in Hollywood recently? All agree? All right, next question. Do you agree or disagree that the voices of Asian Americans are now stronger than before the pandemic? All agree? Wow. Okay, next question. Do you agree or disagree that our voices have become stronger It has to do with the increasing number of anti-Asian hate crimes. Wait, you sort of hesitate. What, why?
Well, I think it's because I feel like rallying against anti-Asian hate is sometimes a really easy way of denying other opportunity and inclusion. It's a really easy issue to rally for, like, we're against anti-Asian hate, but are we for diversity and inclusion? Are we for sponsorship? Will we open doors for other Asian Americans?
Any other one want to?
Yeah, I agree. And in fact, what I'm encouraged by with the pandemic and the anti-Asian hate is young people, amount of young Asian American people coming out and speaking up and actually running for office because of some of that stuff.
I think that it's kind of galvanized the Asian community. I mean, look, there is no like, we're all in different silos. There's Japanese and Chinese and all that, but I think the anti-Asian hate that has happened is kind of galvanized, especially the young people where we're Asians, because that's the only way we're gonna get political power and have a voice is when we're unified and not separate.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, I agree with what Lisa said, but I also think that the statement that you made was, did it galvanize after, or did the anti-Asian hate help with that? And I think it did, because it gave it all of a sudden sort of, we're never seen and heard. And when people are attacking our people because of our skin color, and also dismissing the attacks. And then in particular, there's always been this this divide where they pit Black community against Asian community. And during anti-Asian hate, people were speaking out because a lot of the news coverage was about Black people attacking Asians, and that was a small percentage of the actual
Yes.
attacks. So therefore, I think that this was very helpful for people to speak out, because we're trying to help each other, and
Yes.
there's always that.
In fact, there is a group called Asians for Black Lives. They are very active. So can I have the slide up, please? Okay, as you can see, can you guys see the slide? Well, the number of Asian Americans being appointed and elected for the past 2 years were amazing in the Puget Sound area. I have probably missed someone there. And yet, the Asian population in Washington state is just 8.8%. So what contributes to this phenomenal increase for Asians to do so well in political campaigns? Anyone?
I think it has to do with this awakening that's happening in the Asian American community, be more civically engaged. And look at these people, they're all very good looking people. I mean, I could see why they want to represent. You know.
Hey, I know your boss is here. The commander of the National Guard is here. So where's the commander? Is he doing well? Okay, great.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, Steve is a National Guard.
So I'm the only one up here that didn't run for elect office, but I supported all of them. And I've been in politics for many years behind the scenes. And I think that it's so great to see all the faces that are actually representative. And I think it's about, I think we finally realized it's about time that we're heard and we're seen and we are representative of our community. And I'm not talking about just the Asian community. I'm talking about the community. We are actually representative of the whole community.
By the way, it is filing week, so you still have a chance.
Yeah,
That'll never happen, but.
yeah, David.
Yeah, I think, when you talk about anti-Asian hate and stereotypes, I think those two things have been barriers to our community in realizing the full potential of what we can bring to the table. And I think in reaction to a lot of that, more and more people have spoken up about the true nature and issues of the Asian American community, including Asian Pacific Americans running for office and getting appointed and getting into seats of power where they can really exert their full potential to do all the things that they need to do. Because Asian Americans are concerned with the same issues that everyone else is, but there have been some barriers because of anti-Asian hate and stereotypes against our community as being the mild minority, docile, not speaking up. And I think people running for office and getting appointed really is counter to that. And that's very encouraging.
Lisa,
Yeah, and I would say,
can I just
go ahead.
tell the audience, she won by 58% of the vote. So answer the question and also how did you do it?
I had help, I had support. I stood on the shoulders of those who came before me, who held the door open. And of course, I feel a deep sense of obligation to do the same. And also, I feel like collectively, Asian Americans are claiming our power.
Even though there have been Asian Pacifics in the US mainland since the 1800s, there is a widespread idea that all Asian American members are recent immigrants and foreigners. What could be done to better understand the contributions of the Asian community in building America and of course in Washington state?
Well, I think it starts in the education system. I'm still shocked at how few people actually know that there is a very deep connection in the community. Asians have been here, and particularly about things like the Japanese incarceration and a lot of different historical events, because history is repeating itself as we've seen in the last few years. So I really think, you know, I've been talking to a lot of young people about history, and it's shocking to me. They're not learning it. We're not learning, we're not teaching civics, and we're not teaching history in the way that's fully representative.
Do you think it has to do with the books, not writing about the Asian community or the Black community in textbooks?
Maybe in textbooks, because in books, there's a lot of representation, so many great authors that are telling stories, not just people like Dan Brown, but Asian authors that are telling the stories of all of our histories. So I think maybe textbooks, I'm not sure, because I'm out of school, not that long though. It's just recent.
That's all right. We don't ask your age.
Yeah, no, I agree. We need to do more on the historical side of things. Look, Asian Month, that's kind of a recent thing in our history, and we need to talk more about it and more about our culture, more of our impact here in Washington State, and certainly in Secretary of State's office, we're trying to broaden our focus. Our office is responsible for history and legacy of our state. We put out books, by the way. Please buy our books, by the way. Just go online. And we plan to do more talking about the history of our state with those communities that had an impact that we haven't talked about before.
Well, I would say, I think we all owe it to ourselves to challenge our implicit bias, our stereotypes, our thinking. And I will say, I remember early on in the campaign trail, so many people had a sense of who I should be, how I should show up, what my voice should sound like. And it was really valuable to me when I decided to make the promise to myself that I would run the campaign according to my values and no one else's. But I had help from others who helped redefine what it means for an Asian woman to speak up and to not be characterized as bossy or loud or whatever the stereotype was. And we have to do that together and for one another.
In addition to education, I think we have to do some work on public relations, media. You know, what type of messages are being put out about Asian Pacific American, and to really defy that by talking about what are the contributions and what's in common between us and everyone else, but what are, more important, what's our contributions to society? The second thing is to support organizations that are really talking about the story, like the Wing Luke Asian Museum and the work that Assunta has done with the media to really highlight the history and contributions of Asian Pacific Americans. We need to do a lot more of that to build allies in broader society about what we're trying to do and how we fit in and how we can also contribute very much.
I know before we start the Chinese Post and the Asian Weekly, I noticed the mainstream newspaper always talk about food as if we were hungry people all the time and never any serious topics. Now that we are here, I think they have done a very, very good job because of us. Steve and Leesa, what have you done differently from your predecessors to empower the voices of those that have been marginalized?
So our office, like I said, we're relooking at how we tell the story of Washington State and our heritage and our history. So we're relooking at that. We're also, for the first time, we've actually did more of an emphasis on voter outreach and education that we really haven't done before, really promoting it, putting out teams that will go out to our communities and team up with nonprofits to get the word out. Not just about voting and registering to vote, but also how the voting process goes. I mean, this state, we have 49% of our Asian population are registered voters. Only of that, 65% vote, and that is about 10%, almost 20% in some cases lower than the white voters or the general population. So we have to do more to lift that up. And so we're constantly trying to do outreach. We're going to get text messaging out there because there's a higher voter rejection rate with Asian voters because of signature rejection. And that could be because they didn't sign it because they don't understand the language, or because the signatures don't match.
But I also noticed you had a very special event. My friends, they were telling me you had a marriage equality reception in Olympia. Tell the audience about that. I thought that was very special.
So again, we're doing more with our history and our legacy of our state. So we celebrated recently the 10th anniversary of marriage equality in the state of Washington. That was a big deal because we made it legal before the U.S. Supreme Court. Yeah, you can clap at that. Of course. Thank you. And so those are the type of stories that we'd like to tell. Next year will be the Bolt decision. Those that might be familiar with it, was a positive for our tribes in the state of Washington.
You know, within my office, I have invited folks to the decision-making table. So my non-senior deputy prosecutors, my legal service professionals. When I go to an event, I try to take a legal service professional or a non-senior with me. Today as my guest, I have Patty Goldman, who's a deputy prosecutor in my office. And when I go to fundraisers, I always buy an extra ticket and bring someone from my office who has traditionally not had power. And I introduce them to the power brokers that are in the room. It's a way of sponsoring, and it's a way of encouraging those who feel like they don't have a voice to realize that they do, and that I'm listening, and others will too.
So
Yeah,
Kath-
even though I'm not currently in office, what I've done in my private sector work is really try to promote the interest and the voice of Asian Pacific Americans and other populations who don't have a voice, who are not able to participate for whatever reason, and to bring out their voice, bring out their perspectives, get them to participate at the table where decisions are made. And when things are getting done, is to tap them to be part of that. So I just really believe that, we have to magnify the voice of the people, make sure they're recognized, but also, get their voices out there and get them to be part of what is important to move our society forward.
Yeah, Katherine, you have no predecessors because the job is created especially for you, Vice President of Culture and People. So I assume the Mariners have celebrated AAPI Heritage Month, right? So tell us some of the programs you have done for the fans and also internally.
So I'm fairly new, but the focus that I have is that, DEI comes at kind of a loaded term. I really feel like it's the job of every department to really look through that lens as they do their jobs. And it's really the inclusion and the culture piece that I can then sort of help to bring to light. I have a love-hate with AANHPI month, I have to be honest, because while I think that it's really great to celebrate and to bring stories to people who otherwise may not have exposure to that, I always like to say to my kids, we're Asian 365 days a year. We don't get away from it. So all the anti-Asian hate and all those things, I mean, like there's definitely, we are proud of who we are all the time. And so, in honor of these months, it's really important then to share stories, to really have narratives that people can hear and see that we are just like everybody else. And so the activities that I try to bring to light are really stories. So we just celebrated AANHP at the front office yesterday. And the theme that I tried to bring yesterday was Japanese American baseball inside and outside the barbed wire. So that people could understand that, people talk about baseball being America's pastime. And then they talk about, but when people think about America's pastime, they don't think of people that look like us. And so what I'm trying to bring to light is that baseball has been around in our culture for many, many years.
Yeah.
And when we talk about America's pastime, we're talking about all of us.
Yes, thank you. So what do you guys recommend we do together or by ourselves to best celebrate Asian Pacific heritage? What should we do to celebrate?
Well,
our
I will say, I feel like we Asian Americans do a really good job of celebrating our culture. And there's a lot of rich culture there, but I hope we celebrate our power.
I agree. And I think that as we look at how we can impact things using the platforms that we have. So I happen to be in sports and you all are in politics or housing, but I think that using these platforms, because what I can do in sports is work with my counterparts and all the other sports teams, because when you look at sports and how inclusive it can be, there's no other place where you can have such opposing opinions and be high-fiving and hugging someone that you have no idea, but you would never, ever associate with because of their politics or anything. So I think for me, it's about working together always, because you can only move things forward when you're doing it as a group, not individually, if you really want to impact.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that we build understanding by building coalitions and building relationships with each other. So I just really encourage conversations, events, but also, really read up and understand different cultures, so people understand who we really are and what we bring to the table. I have this kind of motto that if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And I think our goal is to be at the table with people understanding our true contributions.
But I want to add, even among the Asian community members, the Chinese have misunderstanding toward the Japanese and vice versa. The Koreans and the Japanese don't get along. So that type of thing should not exist. So expand on that, Steve.
No, I agree. I think that the younger generation is definitely doing that. My generation's definitely doing that. And we're just getting better. We're having more of these events.
Getting better.
We're doing these. We're doing this right now, right?
Yeah.
And this is great. Make sure you read the Northwest Asian Weekly. I mean, that would help a lot as well. Like,
All right.
told me to say that, so.
No, I did not, but thank you anyway. So the last slide, please. So if you like to get involved with the Asian community, these are some of the organizations recommended by many of the Asian American community leaders. In fact, I have included our Rotarian Geraldine Brachot's Peace Trees as part of the list because it's such a good program. Today is a historical day for our club. In my 30+ years as a member, I think this is probably the first Asian American program in celebrating AAPI Heritage Month. Oh. Thank you, panelists, for your wits and insights. Ken Graham for inspiring this program, and President Beth for supporting it. Please give them a big round of applause.
And a big round of
Thank you,
applause
Assunta.
for Assunta. She is a hero. She is a hero.
Wow, how awesome was that program? Assunta, thank you for your just masterful job of moderating that, making it not only informative and educational for us, but also entertaining. We appreciate all of our panelists. You guys are amazing. All right, and for our panelists, I just want to also say how much I appreciate you making time for us today. I know how busy all of you are, but we have made a donation to Harvest Against Hunger in your name to provide 600 servings of healthy produce in honor of you. So thank you for doing that. All right, I'm going to make one quick housekeeping note before we wrap up here, but if you are from SQUIM, of which many of you are, I'd like, after we conclude the program, if you could all come up to the stage, we're going to do one big group photo from all the folks from SQUIM. Okay, so a couple of things here. I want to encourage everyone to visit the website seattlerotary.org for a list of the upcoming events and activities for our members, as well as what speakers are coming up. Now, and speaking of next week's program, we have a really great combination for you. In honor of Pride Month, which will be in June, our short program speaker is Egan Orion, Executive Director of Seattle Pride Fest. And our long program will be from Seattle's favorite hockey team, the Seattle Kraken. You'll not only hear about their historic season, but also about the impact that they are having on our community. All right, because my day job is in sports, I'll leave you with a few highlights from your Seattle sports teams, as I do every week. The OL Reign dropped a match to the North Carolina Courage and next host Gotham FC on Sunday at 3 p.m. This loss does put the Reign into second place in the NWSL, but I'm confident they will get back up there. Our injury depleted Seattle Sounders pulled out a 1-0 win at the Houston Dynamo and are back in first place in the Western Conference. They host Austin FC tonight at 7 p.m. The Seawolves Rugby Club won at Houston and are in second place in the West with a 9-2 record. They host the Chicago Hounds on Saturday at 7:30. Now, the Mariners have been dancing around 500 for the last 10 or so games and are back at a 21-21 win-loss record after a loss to the Boston Red Sox. They play one more in Beantown and head to Atlanta for a 3-game series before returning home on Monday to host Oakland. Now, you all may remember, or those of you who are members here, a couple months ago, I talked about the UW track team and men's track team and what an amazing group of athletes that they have there. Well, they took their first ever Pac-12 championship, dominating the distant events and ending Oregon's 15-year run as conference champs. Pretty awesome. And the University of Washington women track team had their best ever finish, placing third at the Pac-12 meet. Now, the WNBA season opens this weekend with the Storm hosting the Las Vegas Aces Saturday at noon. And now let's talk about Seattle hockey. The Thunderbirds first took game 3 of their series versus Kamloops, and they lead the WHL Championship Series 2-1. And they can wrap up the series at home as they host the next 2 games tonight and Friday. And our 14-game magical playoff ride for the Kraken did come to an end with a 2-1 loss in Game 7 of their series to the Dallas Stars. After 14 high-intensity games in 28 days, even the most casual fan knows to yell, "Roo!" when goalie Philip Grubauer makes a great save, and can tell you who plays on our 3rd and 4th lines and proudly speak of the Kraken depth and commitment to the team. Anyone who questioned whether Seattle could be a hockey town now emphatically knows the answer is yes. And we can't wait to see our team on the ice again later this fall. Tennis legend Serena Williams says, "I really think a champion is defined not by their wins, but how they recover when they fail." This meeting is adjourned.